Greetings! In today's video we're going to be reviewing episode 2 from season 3 of Discovery entitled Far From Home, directed by Olatunde Osunsanmi and written by Jenny Lumet, Michelle Paradise and Alex Kurtzman. Now if this is your first contact with us, welcome aboard. My name's Carl Bromley and this is the Trekkie's Guide to the Galaxy. So the USS Discovery has arrived in the 32nd century. Emerging from the wormhole with some quite severe systems failures, they hurtle towards an unknown planet, smashing through several large chunks of what look like that planet along the way. After gaining some minimal controls back, Lieutenant Debner manages to successfully conduct a rather bumpy crash landing on a glacier. Surveying the damage on the ship, they determine that the major power systems and communication systems are both in need of repair. And after some short-range scans conducted by Ensign Tilly, they discover pockets of breathable atmosphere on the planet and realise that their mission to save all life in the universe was a success. Giorgio arrives while they're doing the survey with little bits of Leland on her boot, and after a little bit of repartee, they continue with the survey. Over in sickbay, we see Dr. Culber bringing Lieutenant Stamets out from his induced coma. He's naturally quite disorientated, and he's taken to the cellular regeneration chamber to recover. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Debner arrives in the sickbay to be examined after being thrown across her station and to the front of the bridge following the crash on the glacier. She's examined by one of the doctors and given the all clear, no concussion and fit to return to duty. She leaves sickbay still looking pretty dazed and in her own world, really. After a brief conference where temperatures are running high, mainly due to Giorgio's bluntness, Saru manages to refocus the team, and shortly after he and Tilly set out to the nearby settlement in order to acquire cerubidium for the repairs to their comms system. Along the way, they spot a local in the vicinity and they decide to follow him, shortly afterwards arriving at the mining colony. Being able to avoid their initial hostilities, they manage to bargain for repairs to their communications system. And that's mainly thanks to a new character we meet called Cal. And Cal has always believed that Starfleet would come to help them one day. Meanwhile, back on Discovery, we find the team of Stamets and Reno having one of their usual tit-for-tat exchanges because they need some help due to their injuries. Stamets doesn't want to ask for any help, and despite his injuries, decides that he's going to go ahead and effect the repairs himself anyway. Back at the colony bar, Zira arrives, and the tone of the episode very quickly changes. He knows about Discovery, he's figured out that they are time travellers, and after finding out that Cal has helped them with their repairs, he very painfully dispatches him as punishment and as an example to the other miners. He then goes on to explain to Saru and Tilly about the parasitic nature of the ice that the Discovery is trapped in. Not long after, Giorgio is thrown through the front doors of the saloon and employs her usual skills to bring the situation under control and turn the tides. After a brief confrontation with Saru, once again, she does eventually back down, and the miners send Zira out into the night where he presumably succumbs to the parasitic ice. Speaking of the ice, it's taking a crushing hold on the Discovery now that the sun's gone down. Lieutenant Stamets has managed to effect repairs to the EPS grid with a little bit of gentle persuasion and taunting from Hugh and Jet. Saru and Tilly return to Discovery using the personal transporter gifted to them by the miners, and they're able to repair the comms system, so that's back up and running. Saru then gives the order to leave, and Lieutenant Debner, still visibly shaken, struggles to free Discovery from the ice. We then find out that there's another ship inbound, presumably an enemy ship. However, it turns out not to be an enemy ship. It takes Discovery in a tractor beam, frees it from the ice, and next we see the flickering image on the view screen of a long-haired Michael Burnham explaining to the crew that she arrived 1 year previous and has been searching for them ever since. So what are my thoughts about the episode? Well, Personally, I think it was a slightly stronger outing than the premiere episode. It felt very much like Star Trek of old, an unknown planet, the crew having to work together as a team whilst apart from each other to accomplish the goal, the episode villain who must be overcome, and friends that are made along the way. There wasn't an awful lot I didn't like about the episode. The special effects, if I'm going to be picky, the special effects on the parasitic ice weren't great. Now, I appreciate that a lot of the post-production work had to be done in a very different way. They had to learn how to work differently due to the pandemic and the lockdown quarantines. But compared to the CGI, certainly that we saw in episode 1, it was slightly below par. But that is just me being picky. On the flip side, what I did love about this episode is the direction they took it in. The Wild West sort of approach really did build on what we learnt about this era in episode 1, and the way that the corrupt are using the circumstances of the galaxy to their advantage to prey on honest people. And I love the way that Saru is forced to balance the decision to let Giorgio off the leash and also when to rein her back in and stand his ground. And Saru, in this episode, as always, uses his brilliant leadership skills to be able to focus the crew on the task in hand. And speaking of Giorgio, I'm glad that the writers have carried on the internal conflict of who she is versus her attachment to Michael. She's like the Hulk of the Star Trek universe. Deep down, she's not too bad a person, or at least when it suits her needs, but let her off the leash and she will create unbelievable chaos. As for Lieutenant Depner, now what is going on here? Now, I've seen a few fan theories online since the episode was aired, some of them focusing primarily on reminding us that the sphere data is still integrated in Discovery's systems, and pointing out that because of her cybernetic augmentation, there is the possibility of some sort of corruption or interaction from the sphere data with Depner. Personally, I hope that's not the case. They've been down that line already with Season 2 and what happened between Control and Leland. I would much rather like to think that the fact of the battle that they found themselves in, and from their point of view, minutes later, hurtling out of the wormhole into an unknown era, smashing through planetoid rocks, and then crashing down onto the planet, that's a hell of a thing for anyone to deal with. And I think that Depner, as the navigation officer in charge of the helm throughout all of that, and then suddenly coming face to face with what the result of her position is, the responsibilities and the consequences of her actions when she's down in sickbay and sees that some of her comrades didn't make it, that to me is where this particular story is heading, but we will have to wait and see. And I'm glad as well that the awkwardness between Culber and Stamets has gone. It's great to see those two back to normal. And I think as well, the extra that's added into the dynamic with Jet Reno is absolutely fantastic. And I can't wait to see where they take that group of 3 characters as a whole for the rest of the season. And as a final thought, something that caught me off guard was when Cal was repairing the communications module and talking with Tilly. And he was explaining that he always knew that the Federation would come to help them. He always believed that Starfleet would turn up to help them as a colony, even going so far as to saying he hoped that he may be Starfleet material. And he struck me straight away as, oh, this is very similar to Aditya Sahil from episode 1. And I was wondering whether we may even get a character like this in every episode. Someone that the crew of the Discovery would be able to bring into the fold to help rebuild the Federation. Boy, was I wrong about that one, eh? I guess that not every good character in this series is going to have a happy ending. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I think it was very well written and directed. I like it as a standalone episode, but it also serves to advance the story arc for the series, very much like some of the episodes we used to get with Deep Space Nine and also Enterprise. I like the character story arcs that they've started to open up, and I really hope that they follow those through for the rest of the season. And it's also left me wanting to watch episode 3 of the series, which can only be a good thing. So overall, we're going to give Season 3, Episode 2, Far From Home, a warp factor rating of 8.5. Thanks for watching, guys. We hope you enjoyed that review. If you did, don't forget to give us a thumbs up on the video. Also, we'd love it if you'd consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell for notifications so that you find out whenever we post any new content. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts on Episode 2. Do drop those down in the comments below and let's discuss. Don't forget to have a look around the channel and look at some of the other content. And in the meantime, set a course for Episode 3, Warp 8.5. Engage.